Haripur.
Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone this evening to the first in our series of Zoom events for 2023. And basically the title of our events are always Tools for Human Empowerment. Our goal in VFA is to provide information, opportunities that you can make progress on your path, whatever that might be, whether it's bhakti or gyan or yoga. So that is our goal. And tonight we're very fortunate. We have a wonderful, wonderful speaker, very close friend of mine I've known for many, many years, and he will be speaking with us this evening. So before we begin, I'm going to say a few prayers, and then I'm going to share one verse from the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam, that relates more or less to what we're discussing this evening. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Janan Janan Salakaya Chaksu Umilitamnina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Hayyam Dadatte Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this verse I want to share with you actually has become one of my favorite verses. It's from the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, 7th canto, 14th chapter, text number 6. Gyataya pitaro putra bratara sodidho pare yad vadanti yad ichanti channumo deta nirmama. Translation: an intelligent man in human society should make his own program of activities very simple. If there are suggestions from his friends, children, parents, brothers, or anyone else, he should externally agree, saying, quote, yes, that is all right, end quote. But internally, he should be determined not to create a cumbersome life in which the purpose of life will not be fulfilled. So as we're talking about environmental issues and things of that nature, we know that if we make life simple, simple living, high thinking, that has an impact in society, that has an impact on the environment, has an impact on everything. So I think let's keep that in mind. We want to keep our lives simple and focused so we don't forget the real purpose of life. So I'd like to introduce our secretary, Raj Sampat. Also, his name is Giri Yadava as well, and he will introduce our speaker. So Raj, I'll pass it on to you.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Sankirtana Das, aka Andy Fraenkel, is an award-winning author and sacred storyteller. He is a recipient of a West Virginia Artist Fellowship Award and a National Endowment for the Arts grant. Over the years, he has made presentations at numerous colleges, conferences, and special events, including the Centennial Event of the Parliament of the World's Religions, Religious Communications Congress, Dharma Conference, the National Storytelling Conference, and Unity Day at the FBI Center in West Virginia. He is a disciple of Swami Prabhupada, founder of the Hare Krishna Movement in the West. Sankirtana Das has been a practitioner and presenter of the Vaisnava Krishna tradition for over 50 years. He and his wife are longtime residents of the new Vrindaban Community in West Virginia. For more info, see the mahabharataproject.com. Thank you and welcome, Sankirtana Das.
Thank you so very much. And Balabhadra Prabhu, thank you so very much. And it's a great pleasure to be here. This is actually the third anniversary of the publication of my last book. I have 3 books out, but my last book was called Hanuman's Quest. And so this is the third anniversary of the publication. I focused on the Ramayana through the stories of Hanuman. But of course, the Ramayana, there's such a broad scope, so much to learn, so much to digest. And over the last day or two, I've been trying to figure out how will I start this program of mine today? And I had different ways of thinking about starting with different things. But I'd like to start with a story, because in ancient India, thousands of years ago, the importance, everyone understood the importance of performing some austerity or making some sacrifice to help move their lives forward. Now the sages and those who are pious, they are performing austerities and sacrifices to help them along in their spiritual path. But the demoniac personalities, they were also performing sacrifices to help them along in their desire to gain power and to gain influence and control. And so Ravana, at that time, he was performing sacrifice with and austerities with his two brothers. There was Kumbhakarna and Babishan, and they all wanted something different. But Ravana was prepared to he had 10 heads, and nothing was happening. So he started every so often, he would cut off one of his heads and put it into the fire. Finally, he was down to one last head, and Brahma showed up from the heavens, and he assured him that, please, your sacrifice doesn't have to be so severe. I'll give you whatever you want, but don't resort to killing yourself. And so Ravana, he was very pleased at this time, and he said what he wanted. He actually, like Hiranyakashipu, Ravana's first request was to be immortal. But no one in this world is immortal. Everybody sooner or later has to die. And so Ravana rephrased his request for a benediction from Brahma. He said, I don't want to be killed. I don't want to be defeated by the Daityas and the Danavas and the Gandharvas and the Munis, so many different personalities and so many different races, from the heavens down to the lower regions of the Rakshasas. Ravana, kind of listed off a very lengthy list. But Brahma, he noted, and he mentioned it to Ravana, that in your list, you haven't put man down on your list that you will be undefeated by. And Ravana had to laugh out loud. He said, man and the monkeys, they're such puny creatures on earth. Of course, I don't have to worry about them at all. And so in this way, he received a great boon and a great blessing by Brahma. Now he became the scourge, and everyone was living in fear of what Ravana might do and who he might attack next. And later on, after some years, there was a meeting. King Dasarat was holding a meeting. He was also wanting to get ready to perform a sacrifice. And he wanted some male offspring in his family. He wanted male offsprings to continue his dynasty and his lineage. And he didn't have any. He had 3 major wives. And so he decided to make a sacrifice, and he invited all of the different gods of universal affairs. They're not God, but they're various demigods who control various aspects of the universe and various aspects of various activities. And so they all came. And even Brahma came from the topmost regions in heaven. And now they saw, when they get, when people get together, then they start talking. Sometimes they start complaining. And sure enough, all of the demigods, they were complaining to Brahma. What type of wickedness did you unleash? There's Ravana and his hordes of Rakshasas, and they're creating havoc all over the world. Is there anything we can do about it? You gave him, and they were pretty brutal, and they were saying that Brahma, you gave him invincibility. He can't be defeated. And he mentioned the personalities in the heavens, and he mentioned the personalities on the lower region. What are we going to do? Everybody was really just distraught about the situation. And so, when there's a difficulty, and that difficulty seems insurmountable, then the demigods, they take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord within the heart. Usually in our world right now, we are facing a insurmountable difficulty. The difficulty with the environment, the difficulty with the climate change. There's so many potential difficulties and disasters waiting to happening, and even some of them are happening at this very moment. And so now around the world, they have these conferences where they're willing to throw billions of dollars at the problem. The problem is actually insurmountable. My personal feeling is that the scientists are saying that the tipping point in the climate change and the calamities are still another 10 or 20 years off, maybe 30 years off. We can do something about it. They're providing some hope, but that hope is at a huge expense, billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's so in one sense, it's another form of cheating. They've cheated so far in ignoring the catastrophes. They've been warned for over the last 60 years. One book that came out very early on in the early 60s was Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. That already foresaw many of the difficulties that we're having today. But no one was listening, and they just wanted to kick the can down the road, so to speak. So because they neglected the issue, and now they're still confronted with the issue, it's become much larger, much worse, and now they have a huge expense of billions and billions of dollars they're pouring into it. And so the previous thing, that neglection of the problem, was cheating. And now that they're willing to spend billions of dollars, that's another form of cheating. This problem could easily be dissipated, but I'll get to that later on. So anyways, now, because of this insurmountable problem with Ravana, they now petitioned the Supreme Lord. Sri Vishnu descended into their midst. And he had a plan. He said, King Dasaratha is looking for some sons, and you're looking for a solution for Ravana. And so I'm going to satisfy all of the parties here. I'm going to manifest myself in 4 different forms as sons, four sons of King Dasaratha. And I'm just going to manifest myself as an ordinary human being in the form of Ramachandra, because Ravana He didn't make any provisions against being protected from the human beings. So the only way to defeat Ravana is my descending as a human being. And so all of the demigods, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They were so happy. Of course, with our situation, and which is also insurmountable, no one is thinking about turning to the Supreme Lord to get some guidance, to get some understanding, and to get some help directly. This is possible, to get some help directly from the Supreme Lord. The Lord is explained, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. So why not help, get his help in this situation? So anyways, later on, Sita was born. Ram and Sita became man and husband and wife. The thing about Sita, actually, she is the daughter of the goddess of the earth, Bhumi, because one day the king in that land, his name was Janaka, and he was going to build some sort of a pavilion or creating a field for special sacred sacrifices. And the Brahmins suggested that he personally go out and till the land. And so as he's tilling the land with the oxen, then all of a sudden from the uprooted land, the earth, arose this child in a basket, and a little baby, wonderful little child. And when the King Janaka looked at the child, his heart practically melted, and he longed to help this child in one way or another. And there was a voice in the sky saying that, my dear king, please treat this little child as your own daughter. And he was so happy to hear that. And so she is known as Sita. Sita means when you're plowing the land, there's a furrow that's coming up. And Sita is the discovery of that child as the land was being plowed up. So anyways, here she is, the daughter of the earth. And Ram and Sita, after some time, they find each other, they get married, but things are not working out so well. Ram is also supposed to be enthroned as the king of the kingdom in northern India. It's called Ayodhya, and Ayodhya is also the capital city. So Ayodhya at that time, you know, this is tens and thousands of years ago. Civilization has been here on earth for thousands, hundreds and thousands of years. And so at that time, Ayodhya was the capital of the civilized world. And it's described in the Ramayana that the city was 96 miles long and about 25 miles wide. And it was a prosperous city. So much culture was going on. So many things were produced at the city by the citizens. There were traders coming far and wide, coming to the city to pick up these wonderful crafts that was made by the craftsmen in this city. So that's the city of the pious. But there was also a city of the Rakshasas, and that was located in Lanka, the island off the coast of southern India. And that's where Ravana and his Rakshasa hordes, that's where they were living. And Ravana was sending out hordes of Rakshasas to attack people all over the world. And so King Dasarat, he had been ruling for thousands of years, 60,000 years. And he finally decided to turn the kingdom over to his eldest son, happened to be Ram. And he proclaimed to the citizens that tomorrow I will crown Ram as the new king of Ayodhya. And everyone was so happy. They all loved Ram, except for one person. One of Dasarat's 3 wives, she was influenced. She kind of lost her reasoning, and she called the king, her husband, to her quarters, and she demanded that Ram be banished into the forest for 14 years, and that her own son, also one of the 4 boys that had been born after that special ceremony, his name was Bharat, that her own son be crowned as king of Ayodhya. And so Dasarat was just, didn't know what to do. He had made a promise some years earlier to Kaikeyi, to his wife, that I'll give you 2 boons, whatever you want, I'll give you. And so at that time, she said, I'll take them later on. And so these were the 2 boons: to banish Ram for 14 years and to establish her own son. And so Ram, when he heard the news that he had to be banished into the forest, he didn't mind at all. And somehow or other, both his other brother, Lakshman, and his wife, Sita, they forced themselves that we are going with you into the forest, into exile. We're not going to stay behind. And Ram especially implored Sita, that she was such a delicate, a wonderful, a delicate woman. She grew up in all sorts of, with fine living quarters, fine foods, and that the forest would, we'd have to sleep on the ground. We'd be eating the berries and the fruits and herbs from the land. It's going to be difficult. We don't know what we'll encounter. But anyways, to make a long story short, they went into the forest together, and after some time, after a number of years, Sita was, Ravana, the wicked king, heard about Sita, and he wanted to enjoy her for himself. This beautiful, this exquisite, cultured woman. He had a huge harem. He had also a couple of wives, but he wasn't satisfied. And so he came and he, after some trickery, he snatched up Sita from their hermitage and he flew off. But you know, Ram, he had to help. In this story, he's appearing just as an ordinary human being. So, you know, as ordinary human beings, we all require help. We can't just do things on our own. We have a support group, we have friends, we have relatives, we have other people that might be interested in our work. We're interested in their work. There's some mutual help. It's inevitable. This is the human condition. We can't do things on our own. And so Ram received help, but his help came from various creatures, various animals. He received help when Sita was kidnapped, and he was trying to find out, to locate her. He immediately received help from a herd of deer. The deer came up on their hind legs and they pointed in the direction where Sita had been taken. And when they got in that direction, then they found another personality, Jatayu, the king of the vultures. He was another animal, a bird, that came to try to come to Ram and Sita's assistance, but he was struck down by Ravana and he was mortally wounded. And so they continued on. After they cremated Jatayu, gave him final rites, then they continued. Finally, they came to a hermitage. They went to Lake Pampa because they heard there that there's the band of monkeys living on the other side of Lake Pampa would be able to help them. But before they went into the land of the monkeys, they went to this hermitage and they met with this elderly lady who was taking care of the hermitage. Her name, what was her name again? I forget, but she was an
Shabari.
Oh, Savari, yes, thank you. So at that time, they stopped because this is the tradition of the civilized culture, that they'll go to the holy places to get blessings from the holy people that are living in the holy places. And so this hermitage was a very special place. There were many great sages living at this hermitage, but over time, all of the great sages passed away one after another. But they told Shabari that you can't pass away. Even though you're getting older, you're as old as we are, but you have to wait. You have, because somebody special is coming here. Ram and Lakshman, they're coming here and they have to be greeted. They have to be taken care of when they arrive. And so you'll have to do that. And after you do that, then you can retire and leave this mortal world and join us. And so finally, Ram and Lakshman arrived. And you know, when you go to a holy place, you like to look around to see what type of things were going on. And this elderly lady, she took them around here and there, showed them where the sages were meditating, showed them where their sacred fires were burning, showed them the river nearby where they went down and they took their baths. So Ram and Lakshman, they were under great stress and great anxiety, but now they were relieved. Being at a holy place, hearing about the katha of this holy place and of the sages that lived there. This is the important thing about going to a holy place. The holy places are there to help people on their journeys, to relieve them of their mundane anxieties. Of course, Ram and Lakshman's anxiety wasn't mundane. They were looking for Ravana and to win back Ram's wife. But here Prabhupada explains, our Guru Srila Prabhupada, he explains at that time, tens and thousands of years ago, there was one great Ravana. But today there are many, many little Ravanas. Also, just like Ravana, he tried to exploit Sita, the daughter of the earth. And so many of these little Ravanas are running around in the world, trying to manipulate, trying to exploit, trying their best to find out how they can use the earth to their own devices, to their own ends, and increase their wealth unlimitedly. Prabhupada explains this. Actually, Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita. The nature in the 16th chapter. Let me see if I can. Let me just read you a little bit. This is the nature of. This is the nature of the. Is Vijay there? Because his name is on my screen. I don't know.
Yeah, there are two Vijays. Vijay and Vijay Palod.
Okay. because his name is on the screen. I don't know if that's it.
Yeah, that's fine. One is Vijay Palod and one is just Vijay.
Okay. So here it's explained. Krishna himself explains the nature and the thinking, the rationale behind the demoniac mentality. This is what he says. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I shall gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future, more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him. And my other enemy, I'll also kill him. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There's none so powerful and happy as I. So this is just, a little bit of the thinking of the demoniac personality. And so as they wander across the earth, people are thinking, how can I utilize my wealth and my influence to create more wealth and more influence? And they don't care who they have to knock out of the way. They don't care who they have to step on, who they have to manipulate or exploit. This is going on as we speak today in far, far worse than anything that we've seen over the last couple of thousand years. This manipulation is going on. So the Kali Yuga is getting a little bit more severe. The earth is suffering. The earth is being destroyed, and the Rakshasas are gloating, and they're very happy to take the resources of the earth and use them for whatever ends that they want. Very often the resources translate into bombs and airplanes and cruisers, so many weapons. And Prabhupada talked about this, that the material world, life is hard enough as it is, right? We all have our own different trials and tribulations. But the demons, they have to create even more deadlier weapons to give people in general more anxiety and create more trials and tribulations with their bombs and their wars. And so people, the wealth of the Rakshasas, the wealth of these demoniac personalities is only increasing the suffering of this world. So what can be done? And so in this way, Ravana, he didn't care who he had to defeat, who he had to fight. And Ravana had a brother. This is another little lesson from the Ramayana, because besides the environment and the violence that's going on and the destruction of the earth, one other thing that many countries are dealing with is the influx of immigrants from different places, especially the United States along its southern borders. The immigrants are coming up from South America and Central America, people who are fleeing difficult situations, fleeing tyranny. They're trying to find some shelter somewhere. And so the United States doesn't seem to be interested in giving shelter. But here, this is a very important example that I mentioned Babishan, Ravana's pious brother. And he saw the calamity that was at stake, the potential havoc, because his brother Ravana was so attached to this woman Sita everyone was imploring him to let her go, give her back to her husband. Of course, Ravana couldn't defile Sita because Ravana, he had a curse earlier in life. He was raping so many women. And so there was a curse, I think by Brahma. He said, if you try to rape one more woman, then all of your 10 heads will explode. And so Ravana was very fearful. He couldn't defile Sita as he had other women in the past. He had to convince her, to lure her, to attract her somehow or other, to convince her. He even lied to her, saying that he had killed her husband, Ram, and there was, why, you might as well surrender to me. And so, and he also had a special exotic airplane that could take him to any corner of the world. And he told her that, if you surrender to me, if you submit to my desires and to my whims, you and I can travel and vacation and all of the beautiful spots all over the world in my special airplane. So he was trying to, but Sita was very patient. She wasn't giving up her affection and her attachments to her husband, no matter what. So anyways, now, after trying to convince his brother Ravana, Vibhishan, who is the pious one in the family, he is a saintly person. Actually, he prayed to become of service to the Dharma. And now he left Lanka. He was disgusted with his brother. His brother wouldn't listen to his good advices at all. And he left Lanka and he came before Ram. Ram at this time had amassed a vast army of monkeys that came to his call from all over the planet. And they were all down at the southern end of India. Somehow or other, they were trying to figure out, how are we going to cross the ocean to Lanka? And now at this time, Vibhishan and a few of his ministers shows up. And the monkeys, they feel that this Vibhishan is a serious threat to their goal of liberating Sita. And they want to kill him. And so there's a big commotion that here is a stranger in our midst. He's actually one of the enemies. He's coming from his brother's palace in Lanka. We can't trust him at all. He'll create dissension in the ranks. And so Ram, he comes there. He tries to placate everyone. Let's figure this out. What's happening? And so he asked the different generals, his different personalities, and they're all ready. Let's kill him, kill this Vibhishan. But when he gets to Hanuman, Hanuman says, no, I've had experience with this Vibhishan. He is a noble personality. Let's not kill him. Why don't you extend your mercy to Vibhishan? And so Ram was very, very pleased with Hanuman's words. And he, at this time, he said to the audience before him that it's the dharma of a scorpion to sting, to kill, but it's the dharma of a great man to extend a helping hand to anyone that comes to him. Whoever comes, let's extend a helping hand, even though they may seem like they're a threat. No, they're not a threat. Even if they are, I'll take the risk. And so here, this is a very telling moment And it's we in America can get some insight here as to how to treat strangers. This is also explained in the Bible. Actually, Lord Jesus tells his followers that I came, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty. This is in Matthew chapter 25. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. And I came as a stranger and you took me in. And so his devotees are wondering, what are you talking about? You came as a stranger. What type of stranger? And he explained that any type of stranger, the lowest of man, I'm there. If you help the lowest, I am present there. And so here in the United States, we're supposedly a Christian country. But as many of the politicians are telling us, that the foundation of the United States is based on Christianity. And so if that's so, if that's true, many of these people who are seeking shelter, coming from tormented regions in Central and South America, dangerous regions, their lives are in danger, and they're also Christians. Many of these Latin people are Christians, and they also value family life, the typical family values that we all hold, they also hold. There may be some dangerous elements in their midst, in the midst of the asylum seekers. There may be a few dangerous elements, but most of these people are Christians looking to earn an honest living, valuing family life. But the so-called Christians in America won't give them shelter. So it's kind of bewildering. And so we have Lord Jesus and his example, and now we have also the example from the Ramayana, that what we really need to do, how we can serve the Dharma. And to mention that there are, let me get to one last story here, because finally there's a big war between Ram and Lakshman and the monkeys, and Ravana and his Rakshasas. And of course, Ravana and his Rakshasas are defeated. And so Hanuman, toward the end of the battle, he goes to the garden where Sita is being held. She's being guarded by dozens of Rakshashis, these women warriors who over the last year, when Sita was held captive, they were tormenting her, and they were saying all sorts of horrible things and depriving her of any comforts, depriving her of any rest. So they really were tormenting her for quite some time. So one of the qualities that she's exhibiting, all of these different qualities that she's exhibiting, are qualities of the earth. One of the qualities I mentioned already is patience, being patient and enduring the horrendous treatment by Ravana and his Rakshasas. And now Hanuman comes to rescue her, and he wants to kill all of these Rakshashis, all of these women who have been tormenting Sita. But Sita says, no, don't kill them. I want to extend my mercy and forgiveness to them. And when they hear that, all of these women, they immediately come and they bow down to Sita and touch her feet and ask for her forgiveness. She readily extends that forgiveness. This is another quality of Mother Earth. And one last quality of Earth that Sita exhibits is, after the battle is over, some weeks later, they returned to Lanka. And now they all return to Lanka on this beautiful aircraft, and it has many, many levels. And so many of the monkeys, they pile on. There's Ram and Lakshman, there's Hanuman, so many other monkeys and the monkey commanders and generals, and they're heading out. Now, this aircraft, it's very subtle. It's controlled by the mind, how you can maneuver the aircraft. And Ram is maneuvering the aircraft with his mind. And as they cross the land of the monkeys, they leave Lanka, they cross over into southern India, and they go north. They're passing over the land of the monkeys near Lake Pampa. And Sita herself, she takes over the maneuvering of the aircraft with her mind. And what happens, she has the aircraft descend down, and settles in, it lands in the land of the monkeys. Sita, she has a plan. She calls for all of the monkey wives of the great generals and their troops. And this aircraft is tremendous, huge. And she wants all of them to get onto the aircraft, and she wants to take them also to Ayodhya, because when they get to Ayodhya, they're going to have a grand celebration. This is the return of Ram and Lakshman and Sita after 14 years in exile. There'll be a wondrous celebration. And she wants all of the monkey wives to participate in the celebration. So this is the way the earth is. This is the way Prabhupada was. He wasn't exclusive. He didn't reject anybody. He wanted to include as many people as possible in the Hare Krishna movement. This is extraordinary. And here Sita is exhibiting that quality of inclusiveness. She took over, she started to manipulate the flower airplane. So in one sense, her mind was even stronger than Ram's mind. But an unfortunate thing happened at the very, very end, that people were complaining to Ram that, how can you live with Sita? She spent a year in the palace of a wicked king. Don't you think there was some improprieties? Ram didn't think there were any improprieties, no. But he banished Sita. And so why did he banish Sita? Because he showed by example that this is the grave responsibility of leadership. The leadership has to be above any criticism. And so, even though Sita was very dear to his heart, even though he knew Sita didn't do anything wrong, but because some of the citizens were complaining, he showed that the leader is subordinate to the desires of the citizens. And the leader's only mandate is to satisfy the desires of the citizens and make sure they're happy in all respects. So Ram banishes Sita. Of course, Ram and Sita are eternally related. They're never ever parted. But here in this little drama of theirs, this Leela, they take the light of parting and again coming back together. So she goes into the forest. And to make a long story short, she's living at the hermitage of one great sage. And finally, after several years, and one thing also, Sita, no one knew it at the time, but Sita was pregnant. And 2 sons are born from Sita in the forest, and she has to raise them by herself. You know, nowadays there's a plight. So many single mothers are raising children on their own. And so here, Sita, at this point, was a single mother with 2 children, having to raise them on her own. This is pretty extraordinary. But finally, Ram, he feels such great separation. He runs to the forest. He wants to find Sita. And finally, he comes upon her. And as he's pleading with her, please, I made a big mistake. Come back to the kingdom. Come back to the palace. But you know, at this point, something strange happens. From beneath the earth opens up, and there's a wonderful, magnificent throne. And the goddess Bhumi, the mother of the earth, Sita's mother, is on this platform. And the platform is made up of all sorts of exotic plants and flowers. It's magnificent. And she invites her daughter, Sita, get on to my platform, get onto the throne here, sit by me. I'll take you to the kingdom of the earth. And so, even though Ram is pleading with her, now Sita has the upper hand. She gets on to the platform, and as Ram is pleading, she has the last word. And the platform descends into the earth, and the earth covers it up. And so, you know, usually we want stories with a happy ending, but this has its own type of ending. The Ramayana is a pretty extraordinary story. It's also known as itihasa, means that it's not just some story or some fable. Itihasa means that which has happened. It's historic. And all of these personalities, they have their own act, their own character to live up to. And so there's many wonderful insights that are found in the Ramayana that have to deal with our own lives and the situations that are before us at this very moment on the earth. So I think I'll end there, and I want to thank everyone for their kind attention. Let me end by offering a prayer to our Guru, and Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itanamani Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pachani Nivasesha Sinyavadi Paskata Desatarane. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you for your kind attention. If there are any thoughts or concerns or questions, we have a few minutes left.
Raji, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Sankirtan Das, for your wonderful explanation of the Ramayana in a short, summarized it very wonderfully. I had a question, but I don't know if there's others listening online who have a question. Prakash?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Prabhuji. Raj Prabhu. Go.
Oh, mine's more of a simple question. I've come across many translations of the Ramayana, and I have them right now, but aren't they all different? I mean, shouldn't we only be reading certain ones, or any versions okay, or how does that work?
There's Valmiki. His is the most authorized. And then there's I think also Tulsidas, am I correct? There's another, and there have a slight few discrepancies in Valmiki's and Tulsidas's Ramayanas. But the thing is, over the centuries, all across southern Asia, in Bali, so many different places. There are over 300 versions of the Ramayana. So one has to be careful. Who the best, of course, the safest is Valmiki's version, and also Tulsidas's version, which only has a few different discrepancies. So stick with those foundational sources of the Ramayana, the story of Ram.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anyone?
Vijayji, any question?
I have a question because right now, you know, many people see that the greatest dangers facing the earth is this global climate change and the difficulties that are happening. There's always climate change, there's always changes, but over the last 100 years, the difficulties are arising that they're man-made difficulties. Just like to give you one example, in the Amazon is very famous. This is a huge jungle in Brazil. And now over the last 40 years or so, because of the Brazil, they have excavated so much land in the Amazon. About 20% of the forest and the jungle in Amazon are gone. And the scientists are saying that if you get up to 25 or 30%, then it's the tipping point. That it's going to be irreversible. Now, there's still time that it could be reversed. But the tipping point, 25 or 30%, will happen within the next 10 years. What will happen? And not only that, the land has been destroyed to create flat fields to have the cows, because the Brazil is one of the main exporters of the cows, the slaughterhouses. The cows are being sent to. So many of these fields, much of the 20% that's already been damaged is because they want to raise the cows to slaughter. And then, of course, there's all of the feed. Some of the land is going into producing the feed to feed all of these different cows that are being raised for slaughter. So this is, and the problem is that if we destroy, this is one of the great sources, the Amazon basin is one of the great sources that are maintaining the balance of oxygen in the world. Because we're breathing in the oxygen, we're breathing out carbon dioxide. And the trees are taking that carbon dioxide and then they're producing the oxygen and they're giving it that back into the atmosphere. Wow. So if there's such a disruption in the Amazon basin, which is one of the greatest forests that the earth has, we don't know what is going to transpire. But one thing that I had neglected to mention, and this is very important. Again, we're talking about a sacrifice. If there's some calamity, where do we go to? The sages, they turn to the Supreme Lord. And also in this calamity of ours, we can also turn to the Supreme Lord. And in this age of Kali, where all of these calamities are occurring, the protection, the counteraction of those calamities are the chanting of the holy names. And there's so many names all over the world, different names for God found in different cultures and religions. And we as Vaishnavas, we use the Hare Krishna prayer. And so Prabhupada encourages everyone, let's get together to glorify the Lord through prayer, through songs, through the recitation of the stories in the scriptures, this will be the healing factor. This will again create balance in the earth. We have to restrict our unlimited consumption. We have to, in the Sri Upanishad, this is the last point I'll make. It's explained in the first verse in the Sri Upanishad explains how we can get out of all of this. That in this world, there are those things that are animate and those things that are inanimate. And the Supreme Lord, he controls everything, both the animate and the inanimate. He controls, he owns everything. He controls everything. And we, as citizens of the world, we have to consume only what we need for our maintenance and not take more, knowing to whom it belongs. We have to understand, where are these resources from the earth coming from? Who do they actually belong to? They don't belong to us. But God and the earth is so kindly supplying these things to allow us to maintain ourselves. But some people are grabbing much, much more than they need, and other people have much, much less than what they need. How can we create this balance? I can't tell you what you need. So the Vedic system, the system of real, genuine culture, says that we need to be educated. We need to be trained as what do we really need, without anybody having to tell us, what do we need? How can we be satisfied? And this is simplicity. This is one of the qualities of godly people, that they're simple. They'll take what they need for the satisfaction, for maintenance, and they won't take anything else, knowing very well to whom it belongs. So, Balabhadra Prabhu, I hope I didn't overextend my welcome here.
No, Prabhu, I was just enchanted as you were telling the story of the Ramayana. It was just so beautiful that time just slipped by. I mean, I looked at the clock once and it's like, wow, I wish you could go on even more. It was just beautiful. And I always love to hear you speak, because you speak from a platform of appreciation, not just realization, but I know how deeply you appreciate the Ramayana and all these wonderful things. So I'm meditating as part of VFA. I'm thinking we have to have you back several times to tell more and more of these pastimes. We can invite more and more people. So thank you so much, Sankirtana Prabhu. Sankirtana Prabhu, I'm so sorry.
So it's my pleasure. And I appreciate everyone for organizing this little session.